The World Wide Web on St. Patrick's Day, Part 3, Web 2.0. Just for leprechauns. Abby's an interesting little girl. She's from Australia, but like anyone her age, including my son, who's 4 years old, she's a digital native. She knows what to do with the iPads and tablets. So watch this video and consider it as we go through this thicket of Web 2.0. What is Web 2.0? Well, this guy, Richard McManus, Irish name, he's got red hair, tells us that there are lots of definitions, or at least ways of describing Web 2.0, because it's maybe not so much something concrete and specific as a way of thinking. The web is a platform. The web is the underlying philosophy of relinquishing control. Localization, mixing the global and the local. An attitude, not a technology. Action at a distance. Power and control. Giving up control. All right, that does not help much. It's all of that and more. Web 2.0, this is still our friend McManus. Web 2.0 is social. It's open, letting go control of your data, mixing the global with the local. It's all of that. New interfaces. It's a way of sharing. Web 2.0, you might say, is a way of life. What is it? I like this definition, that whereas Web 1.0 was commerce, Web 2.0 is people. Web 2.0 seems to be like Pink Floyd lyrics. Different things to different people, depending on your state of mind. This video might help. Take time to look at it. The actual term and concept was, at least if the Irishman, Tim O'Reilly, didn't invent it, he certainly was one of the midwives for it to be birthed back in the early 2000s from a brainstorming session, looking back on all the dot-com collapses of at the end of the 90s and turn of the 2000s, but that the companies that had survived the collapse seemed to have something in common, and that's what Web 2.0 was, which doesn't help us much, but here's Tim O'Reilly, and I think this is the most important part of it, is the empowerment of individuals. Maybe it helps that he's Irish too. At least his name is. Okay, some of the elements of 2.0 is wikis and blogs and others in the social media. What's a blog? One of the inventors of the blog is Dave Weiner, and this is his description of it. It's a kind of continual tour with a human guide that you get to know. Many guides to choose from. Each develops an audience, and there's also camaraderie and politics between the people who run weblogs. His blogs are from 1997 and 1994. And he had one called Dave's Manila Playtime, whatever that meant. And this is Dave Weiner now. He invented blogging, podcasting, photocasting, trackbacks, comments, blog rolls. Blog rolls are the list of links that you see on a blog sometimes. We have one on our EDU 626 blog. Well, what is a blog? Is it a log of websites visited? That was some of the early blogs, certainly looked like that. Or a personal journal, or something else. Michael Conniff, an early writer on this as well, said there's not easy to define it. It's a variable form, a moving target, if you wish. Everybody from the Lonely Scribe in Paducah to Me Too Mass Media in Manhattan. That's from Online Journalism Review. And blogs, if nothing else, have certainly revolutionized journalism. Can you define blogs? Well, this guy says, I don't care. Jeff Jarvis. There's no need to define the term. It's just a tool which will let you do anything from change the world to share your shopping list. People use it as they wish. All right, what makes a blog then? Well, here's one technical description by, I think, Dave Weiner. Yes. It's a hierarchy of text, images, media objects, and data arranged chronologically, as it were, as a diary. Usually it's the newest that comes first. Chronological order, the most recent at the top. Can reflect personal or corporate interests and almost always written by an individual, or as in our case, by a class. Okay. How did blogs begin? Rebecca Blood is yet another blog pioneer. And as she explained, the original weblogs were link-driven sites, just lists of websites that a person had visited, or they could, with some commentary perhaps and personal thoughts. It's a way of pre-surfing the web. Rebecca's Pocket, that was her original blog from 1997, I think. And there are also weblogs of weblogs. This was Jesse's page. Jesse began with 23 in 1999. And when you go to there from 12th of October 2000, there are about 200 or 300. Now, of course, there are millions. Who coined the term weblog itself? Well, supposedly this guy here. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, if it's Jorn or Barger or Barger, but apparently in December 1997, he began posting short comments and links on his Robot Wisdom website, which the header looked like this. It's not available anymore. It was until just a couple of years ago. It was a log of his thoughts and feelings, and so he called it a weblog. And he never made a dime from it. And this comes from Dippity, which is a web-based program where you can create different kinds of timelines. Well, here's another timeline. And blog history begins, in a sense, with Tim Berners-Lee and the dawn of web time, really, not internet time, because internet time is 20 years earlier, 1969. But he began keeping a list of all new sites. These were the earliest weblogs. June 1993, NCSA had a list of what's new list of sites. Netscape was one of the oldest browsers. It had a what's new list of sites. January 1994, Justin Hall launched Justin's homepage, now Justin's Links. And this is the logo for NCSA's Mosaic, the original web browser. I think this was in Mosaic 2.0 that used this one. The little globe there would spin around as you were surfing. Apparently 1999 was the year when it all exploded for blogs. Someone decided he's going to pronounce the word weblog as weblog, and that just became immediately shortened to blog for short. So there you have it. That was Peter Merholtz. Again, early 1999, Brigitte Eaton started the first portal devoted to blogs with about 50 listings. July, another software called Metafilter started its earliest archives of blogs. July, PETAS launched the first free build-your-own-blog web tool, no longer available, unfortunately. Then came Blogger from Pyra, and that was bought later by Google, and which is where we have the Google blogs from. You've probably seen that symbol. But what made 1999 so important? Rebecca Blood has her thoughts, and it's this idea of an easy edit web interface that PETA's first produced, and then Pyra with Blogger, and another one called GrokSoup, which no longer exists. And they make it very easy for people to publish their own weblogs quickly and easily. And of course, free. And Dave Weiner has been called the proto-blogger. Why was Blogger so revolutionary? Well, Rebecca Blood tells us it's the interface. It's just well, you have seen the interface yourself. You've used it in Blackboard and Canvas, Microsoft Word. It's that box in which you can edit with the toolbox at the top. With a click, Blogger will post whatever you've written on your website, archive it in the proper place, and present the writer with another empty box, just waiting to be filled. Her own blog goes to April 1999, Rebecca's Pocket. Okay, TypePad and WordPress are two, what you might say, standalone blogging software. Web-based, but you can also download them to your computer. It's certainly true for WordPress. Or you can host your free blog on WordPress.com. WordPress is what we use for our blog for the class. And there's also EduBlogs, which is intended for, believe it or not, educators, based on WordPress. But how do you find the blogs? Well, one service you can use is Technorati. Goes back to what they call the dawn of Bloggy Man, 2002. Of course, blogs are older than that, we've seen, but 2002 seems an arbitrary place to start, from when blogs really became popular. So you can read individual reviews, essays, interviews, news stories, but also gives you information about the blogosphere. They have the State of the Blogosphere series, an annual report, and it has a searchable and browsable blog directory. Google at least used to also have a way of searching blogs. But then there's the question of the safety of using blogs. It certainly is possible. This book, Classroom Blogging, is a useful background guide. And David Warlick is a teacher who became a public speaker and author. He wrote this book, and he has his own blogs about blogging in the classroom. And there's Moodle, which a lot of people have used. I've used it as well for my classes. And there are also other safe blogging sites, 21 Classes, Class Blogmeister, and Gaggle. You can check these out. Microblogging. Now, what is that? Well, essentially this is the 140 characters. You know one service that is big on this. And it's based on really SMS text messages. And this is an example of what a microblog update or a tweet would look like. So what are some examples of microblogging sites? Twitter is the big one, of course. But there are a number of others. Search Engine Land, back in 2009, gave a list of 5 microblogging sites that aren't Twitter. One of these was FriendFeed. Tumblr is much better known than FriendFeed. And then there's Posthorus Spaces, which closed down last year. Daily Booth also closed down. And 12 Seconds. And here you can see why. It's Twitter that has squeezed them out. 3 out of the 5 that weren't Twitter have been closed down. Some of them acquired by Twitter. What about wikis? Well, essentially a wiki is a website that whoever happens to be reading it can also, if they log in, jump in and revise and edit the pages. You've already had one example of doing that in this class. Does it have anything to do with Wikipedia? Well, yes, in the sense that Wikipedia is a wiki. Wikipedia comes from wiki plus encyclopedia. Written collaboratively by volunteers, anyone can join. We won't talk here about all the problems there is there with authority. But that doesn't mean to say that Wikipedia represents all wikis. Wikipedia is one kind of wiki. There are all different kinds of wikis in all sorts of content. And some wikis can be much more private than Wikipedia or much more open, depending on how security is handled. What does it have to do with the hula dancer? Well, Ward Cunningham invented the word wiki in 1995. It's Hawaiian, and he explains that he first met it when he came to the airport, because the shuttle bus there is called a wiki bus, and wiki means quick in native Hawaiian. How do you pronounce it? Well, Cunningham says that wiki is probably the proper pronunciation, but wiki may occasionally be used as well. And here's Honolulu Airport with information about the wiki bus. This comes from a wiki called Wiki Educator, which has content about using wikis in education. But the photograph originally, of course, comes from Wikipedia. And there's an index, just like there's Technorati, there's wikiindex.org, which is a wiki of wikis, an effort to create a complete directory of wiki websites. What about different kinds of wiki software? Well, this article has 10 of them. MediaWiki is the one that Wikipedia is based on. Then there's DocuWiki, PMWiki, WikaWiki, TWiki, and so on. There's also one called PBWiki, which originally was called Peanut Butter Wiki, supposedly because it was as easy to use as making a peanut butter sandwich. Okay, what about social networking? What is it? And this is a nice background website about what social networking is. Grouping of individuals into specific groups, just like a community. Making circles, and a lot of social networks use that concept of the circle of friends. Okay, here's social networking in plain English, a video that you can watch. I like Common Craft's way of doing it. It's just cut up pieces of paper that they move around, no fancy animation, but it gets the message across. So what exactly is it? Well, Dana Boyd, notice she does not use capitals for her name. She doesn't capitalize her name. And her colleague Nicole Ellison. Nicole is an associate professor at the University of Michigan Library School, actually called the School of Information. And Dana, I think, works for Microsoft. But they define social networks as web-based services that allow individuals to join within a bounded system, get a list of other users with whom they share a connection, in other words, a common interest, and make connections. Dana has a new book, Dana Boyd, about social networking for teens. Came out just this past month. Very interesting to look at. And this video here is from the November before it came out, with some of the same concepts involved there. Timeline of social networking. Brief history. This is a blog that I found which isn't available anymore. I've not been able to find it again, but they claim that classmates.com was one of the first social networks. Boyd and Ellison consider 6 Degrees of Separation to be the first real social networking site. Then there was one, Circle of Friends, 1999. That doesn't have any traces online anymore that I can find. Friendster, MySpace, Orkut, which was a Google first attempt at social networking. Facebook from 2004. Yahoo 360, no longer in existence. This blog was from 2007, so it doesn't include Google's newest one, Google+, that was launched at first by invitation only, and then later anyone can join, 2011. And here's some of the logos for these social networks: Classmates, 6 Degrees, Friend Circles, Friendster, MySpace. Both of these still exist, but they're very different from what they originally were when they first were developed. Orkut, no longer in existence. Facebook, of course, very much still in existence. Yahoo and Google+. This one is interesting, ePals, which is kind of like an international educational social networking site, but at least it enables connections between classrooms and other resources all around the world. ePals. Is social networking different from social media? Well, there are certainly two little different concepts, and this is one way of explaining it by someone on Huffington Post. Social media is the content that you upload. That's what you want to present to others. To some extent, you could say almost that a blog is more social media, because what's important is what you are sending to them. Social networking, on the other hand, is you're engaging with your audience. You're creating relationships. You're finding people with common interests to yours. Social networking is conversation among like-minded, whereas social media is where you are presenting. You're almost like a monologue. Second Life is an interesting special case because it's a virtual community where you take on a new identity, three-dimensional almost, in an animated form, a virtual world. Here's a snapshot. I went on Second Life a few years ago. I don't even know if Murray Estate still has a presence in Second Life, but they certainly did at that time. This was probably in the 2006, 2007, something like that. And that's kind of what it looks like. So what are some of the most popular social networking sites? Well, there is an annual production or article on the top 15 most popular social networking sites. And here are the top 5 from that. And of course, as you might guess, Facebook is at the top. 900 million estimated individuals who visit Facebook monthly. That doesn't say anything about whether they're members of Facebook, but they presumably have to really visit it. Twitter is second, LinkedIn third, Google Plus fifth already. And Pinterest is interesting as number 4 now. It's not been going that long. LinkedIn is more of a professional kind of social network. Social bookmarking is a way of recording a website that you visited and you want to keep it for later use. So instead of just copying and pasting onto a Word document, for example, you can save them in your web browser on a social bookmarking site. And it's social in the sense that you can share your resources with others. Now, this same website that had the 15 most popular social networking sites also has 15 most popular social bookmarking sites. And still, Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, they're close to the top on this. But then there are others which are more specifically intended for social bookmarking, like Reddit, StumbleUpon, Dig, Newsvine, Delicious, one of the original ones, Digo, and Folkd. But maybe we should call this social bookmarking as social curation or content curation. What do we mean by that? It's a collaborative sharing of web content. Dig and Reddit being among the oldest and more specifically bookmarking as such. But Pinterest and some of the others we'll see in a moment are more dedicated to images. And then there's yet another one where you can do more than that. You can tell a story. Content aggregation is another term that's been proposed. Another is content curation. Okay, we're not quite finished yet. Glogster is somewhat similar to Pinterest as a graphic curation website, as you might say. Glogster has an educational arm where you can save money by being a member, especially for teachers and students. Here's a review of Glogster EDU. As here you get advertising-free glogs and easy teacher monitoring of student work. If you click on that link, you'll get an example glog. Here's another sample glog, part of one at least, with Web 2.0 tools. See, there are so many more than we're able to talk about in one presentation, and even then this presentation is pretty long. Oops. Similar to Glogster are Pinterest, Padlet, which used to be called Wallwisher, and Scoopit. Again, they're pretty much graphics based rather than notation or text. But here's another way to curate stories. Create your own story based on what you read on the net, on the web. See, you can gather not only images, but tweets, comments, snippets. You can just drag them from one to the other. Into your story that you're creating. And using some of these services. Some recent statistics for Web 2.0 use from Pew Internet. Pew Internet and American Life Project has been for several years following how we use Internet. They have an annual social media update. 42% of online adults use multiple social networking sites, but Facebook is the platform of choice. Read more by clicking on here. And here's a presentation which tells you 9 things you need to know about teens, technology, and online privacy. Teens' internet use is becoming increasingly mobile. You knew that already, I'm sure. Teens are diversifying their social media portfolios. Teens and adults are sharing more information about themselves online. Privacy norms and requirements vary by platform. Some have a 13 as an age limit. Some don't. Some allow you to circumvent the 13 limit. Teens are learning now how important it is to manage their social privacy, but advertisers and other third parties are not top of mind for teens. They're not really aware of what's happening with advertising, but parents can often be, and so they're expressing a wide range of concerns. And teens are turning to peers and sometimes to parents. In fact, friends and parents are about equal. Just a little over 40% of them, those who turn to someone for advice, turn to friends or to parents. Safety issues. Remind kids that online actions have their consequences. Tell kids to limit what they share. Encourage online manners. limit access to your kids' profiles, talk to kids about what they're doing online. This is from onguardonline.gov, a government website that has some useful advice and resources. And a downloadable guide to talking to kids. That's what NetCetera is. But it's important to find a good balance. Don't restrict them too much. Don't protect them too much. But also don't not protect them at all. This is a thought to be aware of. Our kids are going to be using these tools and sites anyway. So why not allow them to use them, but under careful guidance. Some cyber safety websites. And Kentucky has its own too, CyberSafe Kentucky. Another useful resource is Embrace Civility in the Digital Age, Digital Citizenship. Nancy Willard has been a champion of cyber savviness rather than just safety alone. And then just before we finish, is Web 2.0 getting old already? Some are saying that Web 2.0 is over. It's time for the mobile, and yet we still use Web 2.0, whether it's mobile or whether it's on a computer. It still is a computer anywhere. In any case, is Web 2.0 dead? The death of Web 2.0. Supposedly, it passed away January 27, 2010. But I think this is interesting that the battle that this author of this blog talks about. We have those who are advocates of social media, convenience, amiability, usefulness. And then we have those who think it's time for kids to go outside and meet your real neighbors again. You're not really connected to online friends. There's not the real community there compared to something face-to-face. And that will lead us to what's next, Web 3.0 and beyond. Or have these people been having too much green beer?